Soi Li Ho Foot Hung. That's the name of a martial art. One that I practiced for a long time, and it also goes by another name, Kung Fu San Soo, which means free-form fighting in the Chinese style of not 5 animals, but 5 families, which is a lot different than the 5 animals. Hi, this is Thunder, in case you didn't know that already. Wind and Thunder Radio. I'm going to do a thing today about the fighting arts. You can call them the martial arts. You can call it anything you want. And a little bit about the philosophy behind it, because I practice these, and I have for many, many, many years, and I teach occasionally, very rarely. I really have to vet the person because the stuff I teach is lethal. So let's talk about the Kung Fu portion and the 5 families, and then there's the 5 different methods of kicking somebody's ass, okay? And so if anybody, let me just state right here, right now, if anybody's offended by any kind of language they consider colored or off, whatever they call it, off color or whatever, in other words, cussing, get over it. I use it for emphasis sometimes. And I might not use it at all, but just in case I do, there's the warning. Okay, so getting back to the martial arts, it is an art. And it's as an artful form as dancing or music or anything. Because again, you let the energy, the whole thing is to learn the mechanics and then let the energy flow through you or channel through you. Now when you do these arts, and I've done several, I've practiced Soi Li Ho Foot Hung and Aikido and Tai Chi. And Aikido actually came from Jiu-Jitsu, not Judo, but Jiu-Jitsu. And this stuff all came from, Aikido is Japanese, but Jiu-Jitsu is, and arts like Chin-Na, which is joint locks, and arts like, most arts came from China, okay, the Chinese monasteries. There were a lot of thieving bandits on the road back then, and the monks had to learn how to defend themselves, and that's how the whole thing got started. And there's different monasteries, there's different fighting systems, there's different philosophies, and they're all awesome. Okay, I mean, you just look at the Eastern philosophy on the martial arts, Sun Tzu's Art of War, the whole ball of wax, and it's awesome. And then I also learned and practiced what they call Special Combat. This is an acronym, Special Combat Aggressive Reactionary Systems, which is SCARS, SCARS, okay? And it's a military fighting system, or let's just say a fighting system taught to the military, taught specifically to the Navy SEALs. And I had the opportunity to experience that because my master, who taught me martial arts and Kung Fu Sensu, also developed that system. And he taught it to the Navy SEALs. And the Navy SEALs, the different friends that I had in the Navy SEALs came from the base on Coronado and came to the dojo, and we many times worked out together. and practiced together, and I taught them everything I knew. Pretty soon they were teaching me a different whole thing, a mindset and everything else. So that's one of the things that influenced me, is through a contract basis. I had an affiliation with the Navy SEALs, hung out with them, fought with them daily. It was a learning experience, both the talks and the actual combat. And let me just make a point here. In the system that I practice, we worked out not on mats, okay? We either worked out on grass or on carpeting, okay? And we wore what they call a cup, which is in your jock strap in the groin area, so that you could receive a kick to the groin. We actually fought. We didn't just, we learned the mechanics, we went through the forms, we learned a form, but then we applied the forms. And most of the things that I learned were through actual fighting. We got injured many times. I still have injuries. And it's brutal, okay? And the mindset sometimes is brutal, or what you'd call just cold, okay? Because you look at the person not as a person sometimes, but just as targets, okay? Like the eye and the throat area and the heart, the acupuncture points. You look at the person as just a targeting, just like you'd put up a target when you're shooting. Because that eliminates your feeling of holding back. You move quicker. You depersonalize the person. I know it sounds brutal, and it pretty much is, but I did it, and I experienced it, and I even had nightmares about it sometimes. So, because it got into the fact of, just the kill mentality, the cold kill mentality. But then tribal people got into the same thing when they went out on their raiding parties, or to count coup or whatever, but they left it behind them. They shape-shifted from into it to out of it. That's what you have to do. This is more about the philosophy end right now. I'm getting into the philosophy of the martial arts, and I have a link that I will put down below that I made a long time ago about the martial arts. I might put that in, but then I might start anew and explain some of the things to you. So most of the martial arts came from the monasteries, and the one that I practiced came from Kuan Yin Monastery, which is the goddess of compassion, and it was written down scribed in scrolls or whatever, and passed down, and verbally. And it ended up most of the time, it ended up realistically in the hands of people like the triads, or people that were in gangs, or people that used a lot of fighting. Because back then they'd choose somebody off, meet me at a certain place, and it was fight to the death. In China. Same thing in Japan with the swordsmanship, the samurai. But again, I want to emphasize that the Japanese people, although awesome in their martial arts, stole most of it from China. It's just the way it is. And there were different characters that developed different things, and there was a man called Morihei Ueshiba, who was the one that developed Aikido, and then you have Chen Man-ching in China, who developed Tai Chi, which is what I practice. And then, you had the different characters or different masters. They were characters too, that were in a certain lineage that passed stuff down. Eventually it got to America, and the scrolls are still here, and I have all of them. Practiced them for years and years and years and years till it's just second nature. So you have punching and kicking and clawing, and you have everything available to you. There are no rules in fighting. There are no rules. Oh, you don't pull his hair. That's one of the first things you do. And you do that by grabbing the back of their head and grabbing just as much as you can so that you have control of their head, and then you will snap their neck by going in opposite directions. You can snap their neck, okay? That's one thing you can do. On the chin, grab the hair. But we'll get into more of that later. But right there, that's a kill shot. So, I mean, if done correctly, I didn't really execute it for you, but I will. And then there are things like, you know, when you pull the hair, you have complete control of their body. I mean, you can bring them up and down before they get wind of it or before they realize what's happening. You can use their limbs, okay, because Aikido is based on Jiu-Jitsu, like I say, which is Chinese, which is joint locks, locking up their joints to make them go a certain way so that you can open them up and then boom, okay? Or with a backhand, the shuto hand, closed or open to the throat. It's a whipping action. You come right into carotid artery. So this stuff that I'm talking about is no bullshit, okay? It's set the person up. It's autonomic reactions. Hit them in the stomach so they bend forward and you come up with a punch, or moving in, taking their center, taking their energy. That means moving right next to their body, like right up against them. Your shoulder against their chest. Okay? You're that close. You're standing between their legs. You've taken their energy, their center, everything over and just like that before they knew what hit them. You're that close, and you're in close and personal so that you can execute a series of different moves on them. Now see, the special forces know this. Most cops don't know it. Most law enforcement people, they don't go through the intensive training like this. They don't do spec ops training. Some do on their own on the side. And most people walking the street don't know this shit. And so if they run into somebody that does know this shit, they're in big fucking trouble if the person doesn't have a good intent in their heart. Now that's what I'm talking about. It's, you know, and then when you learn this stuff, okay, you're lethal. You're as lethal as if you carry around a firearm. Okay? And they consider you lethal. Because you can kill somebody in about 3 seconds, truthfully. Because your hand, okay, is just like a knife. It's just like a sword. If you come in with a side shuto to that person's neck, it's pretty much over if you hit them in the right place. And if you execute quickly and before they even have a chance to think, usually they'll move towards you. And then there's a series of ways of stepping to the side and bending your head to avoid punches, okay, and then executing on them quickly. This is stuff you need to know, people. It's just wisdom being imparted to you. That's the way you have to look at it. It's just like shooting or knife fighting or sword fighting or anything. It's a martial art, but it's a fighting art. Now, should you go out and use this in a manner that is irresponsible? No. That's why you have to be careful about who you teach this stuff to. And I'm just showing you a few things here. But if I taught personally, I would be charging big bucks and vetting whoever I teach. In other words, finding out what their mindset is. You don't teach this to anybody again. They have to be responsible because there's just too many. That's why you're learning the stuff in the first place, is to protect yourself against irresponsible idiots that think they know what they're doing but don't. They don't have a clue. Just like in sex, most people don't have a clue as to the martial arts, shall we say, of sex, the tantra yoga. They don't have a clue about that. Just as much as about this, or they don't have a clue about meditation. Now see, this is another thing that goes with the martial arts. So I've described a pretty brutal side, but there's another side. There's the yin and the yang, which is the meditation, the breathing, the generation of energy. Okay? The movement of energy, the movement of what we call chi through the palms of your hands. You can chi somebody, you can direct chi at them. You don't even have to touch them. So that's called a softer style, and Tai Chi is a more flowing style. Okay, it's a more loose, but you're grounded. You're like a blade of grass blowing in the wind. So it's a softer style as opposed to a rigid style. But when you combine the two, it's lethal, because you can switch back and forth between the two. You can become yin and yang. You can adapt to any situation. Now, I'm telling you this stuff because Campfire Council and Wind and Thunder Radio and Roger Thunderhands Gilbert is about survival. That's one of the precepts of this organization. It's just teaching people to survive from people that are jerks. And women, you especially, should pay attention to this kind of stuff. And I know some women that can kick some ass. Trust me, there are guys that wouldn't even want to mess with them. They're warrior women. And they kick ass mentally, spiritually, and physically. So you don't want to mess with them. You want to be friends with them. Anybody can learn this stuff, I would say. I would venture to say. You have to be into it, though. First thing that's going to happen when the shit hits the fan is some of these assholes are going to look at the women in vulnerable states, or anybody, but you know what I'm talking about. They're going to go for them. If they don't have a boyfriend, or if they don't know how to protect themselves, or if they don't know how, and I've said this in my previous videos. There's predator and prey, and they go on fear. That's why I said to have no fear in my last video of anything. Die fighting. That's what you do. The saying for this art is the one that I mentioned, the Chinese art. Soi li ho fut hung san su. Is they might take my life, but they'll never take my confidence. So you go down fighting, so what? But you know, when you have the attitude, which is the same one as Bushido, or Bushido, however you want to pronounce it, from the Japanese samurai, Bushido was a way of life, and that way of life was no fear of death at all, in any way, shape, or form. So when they went to battle, they didn't fear death. They considered themselves already dead, the good samurai. So they just went in like, I'm dead, and performed the mechanics of their art, and he usually won because they didn't hesitate. The other guys were like, well, should I? You know, and that was it for them. You can't think about making a move, you just have to make a move. You can't think about it. You have to go into this complete shape-shift mindset. But getting back to the meditation part, there's this energy that you use to learn how to, it's the same sexual energy that I talked about. It's all the same, from the base chakra that moves through you. Chi. Use chi. And you practice exercises, you practice breathing exercises, qi gong. Tai Chi is a form of that. It's a moving qi gong. And it's also a martial art, because you can take the smooth, flowing movements of Tai Chi and turn it into hard arm breaks, and most of it is going to the side, flowing. Aikido's kind of the same way, but it's a circular motion. Aikido is based on a circular motion on all planes, vertical, horizontal, everything in between. In other words, getting out of their way and circling them into your energy, using their own energy against them, momentum, and then reversing the momentum. So when you combine all these things, Aikido, Tai Chi, Kung Fu Sansu, when you combine them all and synthesize them and learn them to the hilt, to the max, to whatever, in your head, and then you just let go of it. You learn the mechanics just like you do in music, and a situation arises and you just like move instinctively, because your style's down, your confidence is down, you have no fear, or you just walk away. See, that's called the sword of no sword, walking away. And that displays no fear, in a sense, because if somebody challenges you on the street and you just go and walk away from them, they'll either go, ooh, he knows what he's doing, or they'll get more pissed off and come after you. And if they come after you, well, it's all over with, isn't it? You deal with it immediately. And if there's anybody else standing around, they saw that you dealt with it immediately, and they are not going to have anything to do with you. But you walk away first. And that's what we don't do in life. That's what these idiots live and let live. You know, that's the motto of the true martial art. Live and let live. Hey, brother, I don't have anything to prove to you. That should be your attitude. Whatever. Shoot your mouth off. Be an idiot. I don't care. Little do they know that they could be dead in 3 seconds. But you know it. So what do you have to prove? Anything? No. You walk away, the sword of no sword. Unless somebody gets into your space, takes your center, violates your center. One of my senseis, one of the people that I've talked to that kind of got a transmission from great man, has a wingspan theory, okay? And Vernon had this thing where in his mind, if he held out his arms straight out, walked down the street, if anybody got into that space, it was time for either him to move out of it or for him to move them out of it. Man, I've had people come right up and get in your face, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Back off. Don't ever let them get that close, okay? Don't ever take that from anybody, cops, anybody. Back off. Whoa. So it's just the little stuff I'm imparting. Call this, the Fighting Arts 1 or something. Then I'll teach you about different natural weapons on your body. Okay, we'll get into that later, but we're getting close here. So I'll just continue talking a little bit more about the philosophy. You can use yoga too to stretch out before this. You can make it peaceful and hard and soft. You don't call it peaceful or passive, you call it hard and soft. That's what it is. It's a comfort to you. It's a way to exercise and learn how to take care of yourself. That's some of the things that should be taught to people. That's some of the things that people should be doing. Not watching TV sitting on their ass. Do this in nature. Learn tracking techniques, splatter vision, presence, martial arts. Combine everything. Let the energy move through you. It's so nice to get up in the morning and practice some slow Tai Chi or some breathing exercises or some Qigong. Just knowing that you know it is, and that you can go to it any time, is a comfort to you. It's a comfort to you. That's what it really should be all about how it comforts and aids your health, your state of mind, not fearing. That's why people don't understand, why don't you fear? Because I don't. Can't you see it in my eyes? If you can't see it there, then you'll never see it. I don't fear. I just relax and go with the flow. Breathe. Relax. Go with the flow. And if somebody comes into that flow, that's their problem, isn't it? And if they make it your problem, then it'll be really their problem. So think about the survival aspects and think about well, actually it's survival on two different levels. One on a renewal level and the other on a physical in your face in the duality level. That's the beauty of the martial arts, because it takes you from one dimension to the other, if it's done correctly. Martial arts is actually learned so you don't have to fight. Because when you get real advanced, there's called what I call proximity factor, and negative and positive proximity factor, that is way beyond the actual physical fighting part, repelling people with energy, vibes, protecting yourself in that way. You don't even have to lift a finger. You're a master when you get to a certain point. Because you've transcended all that fear and death and all that stuff, and you're just like, what? What's this person doing? What is this? Is this a cartoon? It's funny, actually. So I guess I'll leave it there today. Just kind of rambling on here. Live and let live. The fighting arts. And live and let live. That's what it's all about, people, on all levels. That's why there's so much problems in this world. So many problems. People don't practice live and let live. They don't practice that. They don't have enough sense to know what that really means. Like what this video was all about. Live and let live. Know yourself, know your enemy, know your friends. Live and let live. Take that thought with you. This is Thunder. Blessings to you all. Adios.